Sports Authority Board to order. This is indeed an exciting day, and we are absolutely thrilled to be here at Geodis Park, and we are grateful for the Nashville SC for hosting us this morning. This has been it came really quickly, but it's been a very seamless and enjoyable experience. So I know that a lot of people have worked tirelessly in this effort, but it's been incredible. So at this time, I think the authority should take this opportunity to say thank you to our project team, and we appreciate a job well done. So thank you. I would like to acknowledge and welcome District 8 Councilwoman Nancy Van Rees and District 9 Councilmember Tanya Hancock. We are so glad that you are with us here today. Thank you for being here. And I would be remiss not to acknowledge and recognize our former Sports Authority Director, Arnett Bodenhammer, who is with us this morning. It's great to see you, Arnett. At this time, we'll have consideration of the minutes from March 10th, 2022 meeting. You should have received those. Is there a second? Second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposers, nay. The motion passes. Thank you. As we continue our path of celebrating Title IX spotlights, we're excited to celebrate Ms. Betty Giles today. And so, Monica, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I think every month I say, we're so excited about this Title IX spotlight. And this month is no exception. Ms. Betty Giles behind me is someone that you need to know. She's a former coach, a former professor, former athletics administrator. She was recommended by Brad Willis of the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, and when I was asking him for a recommendation, he said, and I quote, "She should be on the Mount Rushmore of Title IX." And I think he was spot on. So we are so honored to have you with us this morning. We're going to start with a resolution that will be read by Director Gill and Director Page, and then Director Atkins. Then we'll have a video, and then we will follow the video with an interview with Director Atkins. So, okay, does that work? All right.
Resolution. First, let me say that I think James Brown got it wrong when he said that this is a man's world. But he got it right when he said, but it would be nothing without a woman or a girl. So, Ms. Giles, a resolution honoring Betty Giles, Director of Women's Athletics, University of Tennessee at Martin. Whereas the Sports Authority of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County is participating in a year-long celebration of the 50th anniversary of Title IX, which will occur on June 23rd, 2022, and desires to recognize Nashvillians who have made not only a significant and long-lasting impacts as athletes, but also have opened doors, removed barriers, encouraged participation in sports for girls and women. And whereas Clarksville native Betty Giles, who served the University of Tennessee at Martin from 1952 until 1995, was instrumental in the development of athletic opportunities for women at UT Martin. By starting and coaching the women's tennis program, the first women's sport to achieve varsity status at the university, and also starting the volleyball and basketball programs at UT Martin. Whereas Giles in 1966 founded the Tennessee Women's Sports Federation to promote intercollegiate competition and organize state championships for a variety of women's sports, growing the organization from 18 colleges and universities to 34 institutions, and serving as its first president. And Anna?
Whereas Giles in 1969 was appointed UT Martin's first and only Director of Women's Athletics, a role she proudly filled until 1994. And whereas Giles concurrently held an appointment as Associate Professor in the Department of Physical Education and is the past president of the UT Martin Faculty Senate and was named one of the university's top 2 teachers in 1981 and 1982. And whereas the UT Martin Betty Giles Female Athletic of the Year Award, the UT Martin Betty Giles Softball Field, and the Betty Giles Nadine Guerin Endowed Scholarship established by Pat Head Summit, all named in her honor. And whereas Giles was inducted into the UT Martin Athletics Hall of Fame in 1985, the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame in 2020, and the Weakley County Hall of Fame in 2021. And whereas Giles influenced countless athletes during her decades at UT Martin, including then player Pat Head Summit, who would go on to become the winningest women's basketball coach in history at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. Be it there resolved that the Sports Authority of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, as part of the celebration of the 50th anniversary of Title IX, honors and recognizes Betty Giles for her contribution to women's sports at the local, state, and national levels. Adopted and approved this 21st day of April, 2022.
Professor of Physical Education at UT Martin. From this position, Giles would go on to pave the way for the future of women's college athletics. Although for a young woman from Clarksville, Tennessee, the road was not always easy.
When they went on the road, I went on the road with them as their official. But we didn't travel on a nice van or a nice bus or anything of that nature. We drove cars.
But I've heard her and former female students tell limited funding, homemade uniforms, and low budget, travel arrangements.
But it was like a family. We just worked well together. But when we went out on the floor, it was business.
In 1966, Giles, along with other sports administrators, came together to create the Tennessee College Women's Sports Federation as a way to help push intercollegiate competition and championships for women's sports. The organization grew quickly, and Giles served as the first president of the organization.
She was relentless in creating opportunities for girls that we didn't have, girls and women. And I'm forever grateful to her. She was my tennis coach. We did go and play other teams in tennis. And so she created some opportunities for me that I would have never had. I commend her for being such a pioneer.
Giles was the university's first and only director of women's athletics beginning in 1969 and remaining in that position until 1994. Giles continued to affect female athletes during her tenure at UT Martin, such as helping to shape a basketball star who would go on to be the winningest coach in basketball history at Summit.
Thank goodness Betty had the foresight to say, hey, it's time to have a women's basketball team at UT Martin, and then the rest is history. We know Pat was not only a great player, but in my opinion, male and female, the greatest coach we've seen.
We cannot begin to tell you how proud we are of you and for you for this job.
All the things that you've done for girls and women's sports, not only at UT Martin, in the state of Tennessee, nationally. Thank you, thank you.
Kyle's vast legacy has left a lasting impression on not only women's athletics, but everyone she meets in the state of Tennessee. We'd like to welcome Ms. Betty Giles to the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, class of 2020.
Thank you. I am so honored as a former tennis collegiate athlete and product of Title IX myself, and really having the opportunity to sit and just interview you, and we have a few questions, if that's all right.
Sure.
All right. We know you're from Clarksville, the home of Wilma Rudolph. Tell us about growing up in Clarksville and how you made your way to UT Martin.
Well, I grew up in Clarksville in out in an area between Clarksville and Hopkinsville, right next door to Fort Campbell. And I was there, and being an only child, I was lucky to have 3 neighbors with children. I was an only child, as I said, and all the neighbors had more than one child. So I grew up playing as many sports as I possibly could, primarily with the guys, the male members of these families. There was only, 2 girls involved other than myself, and probably about 7 boys in this nesting of families. I enjoyed sports from the very beginning and spent as much time as I possibly could having a good time with my friends. And I was very young during this period. You wanted to know how I got
To Martin.
to Martin. Oh my heavens. That's a long story. You guys don't have time for that. But anyway, I went to college at Austin Peay first, and I had an assistantship. I had won a grad assistantship to UT Knoxville, and I was all ready to go. And the the principal, superintendent of schools for Clarksville and Montgomery County, called me to come to his office. So I went there, and he offered me a job. And this was the first time anybody had offered me a job other than some little piddling thing as I was growing up. So I was really excited, and I went to see him, and he told me that he wanted me to be supervisor of physical education for the elementary and secondary schools in Montgomery County. Now, I was from Montgomery County, but I really didn't know all that much about how many high schools and how many elementary schools, but I found out pretty quick. And there was bunches and bunches, lots of them. But I thought, man, I could handle this. And so Mr. Carney said, and I'll have you a car. So the county furnished me a car. Man, I had not had a car totally available to me at all in my life. So here I was with a car and all the gas I needed and so forth, and I was running these schools. Well, that was a false impression. They ran me. I could not do a good job, and I really worked at that job almost night and day for a year. But after about, I don't know, 6 or 8 months, I went to see Mr. Carney, and I said, I can't do this another year. I won't live that long if I keep this up.
And you're 93 now, is that correct?
Pardon?
You're 93 now?
I'm 93 now, right. and hopefully I'm still going.
You're still
fairly
going, no
strong.
doubt.
But anyway, so I went, I checked with my UT Knoxville friends, which included a lot of people that you know, I'm sure. And they said, oh, you had a grad assistantship. We offered you a grad assistantship. You turned us down, but if you're ready again, we'll love to have you again. So I went to Knoxville on a grad assistantship and stayed there until I completed it. Was there with Andy Kozar, and my roommate was his wife, and before they married, and had a good time. So that's kind of the story of how I got to Knoxville, and I guess almost how I got to UT Martin, if you want that included.
Well, at UT Martin, you started several women's programs. I think the first one was the tennis. Is that correct?
Well, yes, that's very true. I had assisted after Title IX was so prevalent and what have you. I insisted that something had to be done. I had a lot of encouragement from a young lady that was there on your screen a minute ago, Lynn Dunn. I had encouragement from lots of girls there, but Lynn Dunn, if any of you know her, was a strong opponent of what was going on, and that was, here we had basketball, well, all sports, but basketball was Lynn's, and those men were playing basketball on athletic scholarships. And Lynn was saying, this is not fair. And of course I felt it wasn't fair. I had on my bulletin board in my office this poster that had come from our national organization of women that women, college women should not participate in sports such as basketball and so forth, because it was not good for females of that age bracket, that these were primary ages of childbearing years, and it was just too much strenuous activity for women. Well, many of us did not believe that. Our women were out playing with the men, practicing with the men just for fun, and having a glorious time and wanting to have teams of their own. So I started this movement. I called it, let's do something about it. And so kind of got my colleagues from the colleges and universities in the state of Tennessee, and we started a revolt. And it went on for about a year and a half. And it had, I forget, I think whomever was reading that a minute ago said how many, I'm not sure. It seems to me there was 20-something, 30-something maybe, colleges and universities. We decided to start meeting. We organized an association, AIAW, Association of Intercollegiate Athletics for Women. We met on the weekend at the Thunderbird Motel, and I don't know if it's in Crossville or Centerville. Somebody could probably remind me where. But anyway, we would meet there on the weekends, and we would write a constitution. We would check and see how things were going at the various institutions. And these were the women physical education people in the state of Tennessee. And we finally got organized, but we knew what was going to happen. The NCAA was going to move in on us. They were not going to let us have a separate organization where we would start getting funds from men's athletics. That was the opinion of many male coaches. We knew we could do it without taking away anything from men, and so we worked very diligently at that. And I've always felt good that there was only one bit of criticism at UT Martin for what was going on, and that was one coach there. And I'm not going to say what sport, and I'm not going to allow you to say, but I bet you could guess. And it didn't last long, and this gentleman finally became a real supporter of us and helped us in ideas and so forth. But at the start, it was pretty hard work to get it done. We had finally, I just kept on with the administration that I want us to make basketball, some tennis, some sport for women. I want it to be a regular sport with scholarships and so forth, like the men have. Well, I didn't get what I really wanted until Reagan in 1972 passed the Educational Amendment Act of 1972, which had a lot of things in it, but the one thing that we really was interested in was Title IX. And from then on, school administrators began to listen. And I was called in, and I really, to this day, think that one of the chancellors of our school left there after a year. After Title IX started, in about a year, he was gone. And he said to me, I don't know if I can do this, and we don't have the money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he left, and when we got another chancellor that was more indebted to women and equal opportunities for them. That's too long.
No, Miss Betty, it's great. You said your motto was, let's do something about it. And I think you're sitting here today because you certainly did. And on behalf of a product of being able to have an athletic scholarship and having an opportunity that didn't otherwise exist, I just thank you from the bottom of my heart. And we really appreciate you coming and having the chance to celebrate you 93 and strong. You're an inspiration. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank all of y'all.
Thank you again so much, Ms. Giles, for being with us and for telling your story. And I must say that I, too, am a proud recipient of some of your hard work as a scholarship athlete. So thank you so much. And thank you, Director Atkins, for that interview. Okay, so now we'll move on into our agenda, and we'll have our Executive Director's report. Monica.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You have the agenda before you. There are several items that require action from the board this morning. A recommendation from the Finance Committee on the FY 2023 capital plan for First Horizon Park. Consideration of a resolution approving the use of Nissan Stadium for this weekend's Rock and Roll Marathon, and consideration of another resolution approving the name of certain areas of Geodis Park. In addition to the action items, the authority will receive an update on the infrastructure report and also, of course, the Nashville SC Geodis Park report. Are there any questions about the agenda? Okay. Well, just a couple other items of note. The roof repairs at First Horizon Park should wrap up, we're being told, in about 1 to 2 weeks. There are some supply chain issues, no surprise, that have caused a bit of a delay, but we're moving forward. Baker Roofing has been called back out to inspect and address a couple of new leaks that were recently found. The good news is that we have some remaining funds. Obviously, this project is coming way under budget, and so we'll be able to use the funds that were originally allocated that have not been spent to address any other repairs. And then finally, I think all of you know this, and people have asked me so much about Quentin. And after 5 years with us, Quentin Herring has returned to the private sector and with an exciting new opportunity. So we are excited for him, but we'll miss him very much. We are working with Metro Human Resources, and we'll keep you updated as we begin the process to fill that position. Are there any questions? If not, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Monica. And I will just echo that Quentin was truly an asset, and we will miss him, but we wish him the best. So. Next, we have our Finance Committee report. The Finance Committee met at 9:30 this morning. And so, John, if you will give us our report.
Thank you. Thank you. We had, in addition to what the Sounds presented, the Titans presented their updates on some of their projects. But as it relates to the Sounds, we have a resolution in front of us. There's a capital plan. This is the first year, the first 7 years of the lease, the Sounds were essentially responsible for all the things that were happening at the park. So they detailed what they've already done, which is about $3 million worth of work that's in the report. What they're projecting, what they're requesting for 2023 is it's $303 in their document, but given the timeline, looks like it'll be more like $327,000 to replace seats. It's time for an upgrade on some of the seats. So this is the first request they brought to us as part of their lease. And they've also, in addition, laid out what they're expecting for 2024, 2025, and moving forward. So they presented that. The Finance Committee is recommending approval of the resolution for the fiscal year 2023 capital plan for First Horizon Park.
Thank you. Is that a motion?
Yes, that was a motion.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve the fiscal year 23 capital plan for First Horizon Park. Any discussion?
I have a comment or just something I want to clarify. Under the lease agreement, the Sounds were not responsible for capital in the first 7 years, but beginning in year 7 is when they are required to present a capital plan. So we will receive this plan annually. The list of past capital expenditures that you see on page 3 are projects that they have paid for. And it just speaks to the investment that they, as an organization, have made back into the building that they were not required to make. So I want to be clear about that. But yes, we will start doing this annually.
And that concludes my report.
Okay.
Thank you.
So let's vote.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, all of those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers, nay. Your motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you for your report.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so I'm sure there's a lot of conversation swirling around and speculation around the Titans and Nissan Stadium. And so we are actually in the process of trying to schedule some time where we will have adequate time to really go in depth and learn a lot more about what's going on there. The date is to be determined, but we are looking at the first or the second week in May, and the staff will reach out as soon as they have a date for us to pull that meeting together. So there will be a called meeting with the Titans, right? Okay, so moving along, we now have a resolution and a license agreement to consider for the Rock and Roll Marathon. Monica?
So as most of you are probably aware, this is the marathon weekend. Each year, competitor group rents the parking lots at Nissan Stadium from us. The cost is $10,000. They rent the lots not only for race day, but in the days leading up to the race, lots are used as operations command for the staging of water station trucks and volunteer parking, participant, all of the attending parking. So that is going on now in anticipation of race day on Saturday. Behind tab 4, you'll find the resolution and the license and use agreement in your binders. Erica Larson is back with us today to answer any final questions. I see her hand in the back. Thank you, Erica. If she looks familiar, it's because she was just with us in October for the fall marathon. So if there are any questions, Erica is here to address those.
Any questions? Comments? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the Sports Authority to enter into a license agreement with Competitor Group Incorporated to use Nissan Stadium for its Rock and Roll Marathon. Is there a motion? There's a motion? Second. And a second. Any discussion? All of those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposers, nay, and the motion passes. Now's the time that we set aside for facility questions. If you have questions of our facility partners, Bridgestone Arena, Nissan Stadium, First Horizon Park, you may do that at this time.
I have one question. I think, Mike, you said something that, this button? Oh, fancy. Monica, you had said something that reminded me, you're talking about the roof. In the Finance Committee meeting, the gentleman with the, at the park, had talked about, a less than a 6-year-old ballpark. We talked about substantial roof repairs. We've talked about warranties. Where are we on the part of the roof that shouldn't have failed in 6 years and the part of the roof that was damaged some way other than they determined was not storm damage? Does that make sense? Remember we talked about that?
We did talk about that. I guess we talked about the warranty, we talked about was there a failure in the materials, which the answer was no. I think, whereas Jim Pashofsky is here and he might be able to speak to it a little more, but it sounded like there are different quality grades of material. And so there was an option, I guess, maybe for a higher quality of material that would have maybe lasted longer. That's not what we have. I don't think that there is anything else that really could be done other than to make the repairs. Did that answer your question? Maybe not. It's
my question is, we got a 6-year-old roof. I've got not an expensive roof on my house, and it's probably a 15 or 20-year roof, right? Like, we shouldn't have. There should be some questions about why we have a 6-year-old roof that we're having to pay substantial repairs to. That's my own thing. I know it wasn't you, it wasn't anybody, but as we go forward, that's.
Right, well, yes, and where's Jim? Do you want to come up here and address that? Because the majority of it was related to storm damage and things that we would not have been able to prevent.
Actually, the roof itself didn't fail. It was storm damage, and there was some bullet holes that they found in it. I don't know how those got there. But those were repairs, and the sealant between the masonry was replaced. So the roof is good, the product itself.
So the repairs we did, you talked like there was going to be additional repairs or something to it?
So the repairs have been made, but then there were some additional leaks that were just recently identified, and so Baker Roofing is coming out to further inspect and address that.
Yeah, this last, I think, Doug, where's Doug? Was it like 2 weeks ago? Yeah, there was that really heavy rain. There was 2 other leaks that showed up. So Baker's out there doing a water test to track down the origin of those. And luckily they're out there while it's going on, so it's not a big deal just to take care of those.
Any other questions or comments?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Are any of those issues still under warranty? Will it be taken care of by warranty?
No, the damage wouldn't be under warranty, no. It was storm damage and there was a few holes.
If it's storm damage, we should have insurance, right? Like.
I guess. We'll have to look into that.
We can work on that. There are elements of Metro that are self-insured, so I'm not sure the answer to that offhand.
Okay.
And I think when we look at it, we found this out after the tornado, right? So the bulk of the storm damage from the 2020 tornado was filed through insurance. While they were looking at that, then they found some other damage that was not storm related, such as, bullet holes. And then there are just some other, all these straight line winds and different storms that come through. So we can continue to look at that. I think the positive thing in that is that what initially was the estimate was, over $100,000 has gotten lower and lower and lower. And so we've allocated $60,000. Right now, we still have a remaining $24,000 left. So it has been not as expensive as we intentionally thought it would be.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I think while we were discussing the roof at First Horizon, it was brought out to our attention that it is Metro's responsibility to inspect that roof at least yearly and so we need to make sure that once we get the roof completed as they're doing now from the last damage that we paid for, we need to make sure that we follow up and make sure that that roof is continually inspected at least yearly, where we don't wait for things to get too far down the road before they get damaged again.
So I would ask, Laura to also look at that in the lease. We did ask council about that, and I don't know that that was their interpretation. We know without question that we are responsible for the condition of the lease, and so I think the smart thing is to make sure that we are, addressing that. But I don't know that the agreement calls for an annual inspection. It is our responsibility, no matter what.
Well, I think the in the Finance Committee meeting, the presentation of the capital expenditures, kind of anticipation was a new roof in the next foreseeable future, if I remember correctly. So
that was part of the lawn, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have a 10-year-old roof. It's 6 years now, 10-year-old roof that needs to be replaced, and I imagine that's millions. So whether we inspect it, whatever, where we got inferior or insufficient materials to last, I mean, I would think the most basic of materials would last 10 years on a complex like the ballpark. Just my expectation and common sense, actually.
Yeah. I think that's a great question, and I think that we do need to do some legwork to get more insight into our responsibility and also to figure out what Metro's role is, and definitely to see if there's any insurance that might align with those costs. So I don't think we'll get this resolved today, but I think it's definitely a conversation that we should continue. So thank everyone for your input. Nothing else? Don't go too far. We're about to have the Geodis Park Infrastructure Report with Jim and Pashofsky and Cole Durio.
All right.
Who are our project managers from Capital Project Solutions.
Okay, well, good morning. As y'all probably came in today, you probably saw some of the mess going on. That's your infrastructure project, but we're going to give you an overall bird's eye view of it here in a little bit. But just to refresh, next, who's ever run the show, there's a lot here, but just to kind of refresh everybody's memory on what makes up the infrastructure project. It's basically Wedgwood, Benton, and Craighead work. It's all new utilities, paving, grading, hardscape, landscape, and it's all to support this facility and the rest of the development out here at the fairgrounds. But you can read through all that detail as you go. Next slide. Just to kind of show you where construction dollars are allocated on the infrastructure project. Most of it, as you can see, is on Wedgwood. And that's kind of skewed because Wedgwood includes the new bridge, which was a major component of the infrastructure project. And then Benton, where a lot of the utilities are. Next slide. Here's our current bond fund status. We are tracking to be within budget on the project, and we're going to wrap up probably in August. It's been a challenge with the current market that we're all facing right now. But you can see that we've invoiced about $16 million to date, and that's where we're tracking. And changes, we've had 35 change requests so far. and we've accepted $43,000 of berth, and the current pending is 31. And so we've got all those factored in there as well. Okay, our SMWDBE status is going very well. We're ahead of target under each category. We've got 34 firms so far. Construction is a little over 2 million of expenditures. Their target from BAO is 15%. They're at 19% currently. And overall, we've spent over $4 million on SMWDBE firms for about 26%. So we're trending quite a bit higher than what the established targets were at the first of the project. So, okay, progress. A lot's been going on, especially with the opening of the new stadium. Recently, big items that are done, the retaining wall was a major issue. The big box culvert going into Browns Creek was completed, and the ADA access to the Speedway. And one of the main things that we've all been working on with the stadium team here in the last few months is getting everything coordinated for May 1st opening day. That's probably what Cole's been spending most of his time doing, actually. But that's gone very well. We've got a good plan in place for the patrons to be able to come in and get in and out of the fairgrounds area, the ADA access, fencing for security to keep the public away from some of the construction areas that we're going to be working on. But we've got a really good plan in place for that. Upcoming, the bridge will be complete soon. Underground utilities will be completed in the next 30 or 45 days, and then we'll start more of the paving and wrapping those things up. But that's a lot of verbiage up there. I don't need to read all that. It would bore everyone. This is just kind of a snapshot of what's currently going on, a graphic. You can see the bridge and the work on Benton and Wedgwood. And here's next one. Here's some current photos. I'm just going to turn this over to Cole.
Yeah, sure.
And let him tell you what these photos are, and then he's going to give you a drone tour. But if y'all have any questions, we'll be right here. Go ahead, Cole.
Sure. Yep, the top left photo is the bridge Jim spoke of. This is connecting Wedgwood Avenue to Craighead. Like Jim said, bridge is nearing completion right now. The deck, parapet walls have all been poured. They're installing the aluminum handrails, and all we're lacking is a small portion of sidewalk and texture coating and grooving of the deck itself, and that'll be wrapped up shortly. Top right is Benton Avenue in front of the stadium. All the curb and gutter has been installed through this space, and most of the parking stalls, concrete parking stalls. We're expecting the binder course of the asphalt layer to be installed at the end of this week and beginning of next week. Bottom left is the same stretch of Benton in front of the stadium. It's a closer look at the first coplanar section of this area. This is a pedestrian crossing, the westernmost pedestrian crossing on Benton Avenue. And the bottom right photo is the large box culvert constructed to feed stormwater on the campus into Browns Creek. This is where a large 10-foot line, a 54-inch, and an 18-inch line connect together and feed out into the floodplain, eventually into Browns Creek. Now we got some drone videos of the entire site, or a drone video. If you want to pause it right off the bat, please. This is Craighead Avenue on the left side of your screen. Right now, the eastern portion of Craighead is under construction. New storm line has been installed. The curb and gutter is the white perimeter line that has been installed. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of rain recently, which has delayed the asphalt installation, but this should be, the asphalt should be installed within the next couple weeks. After this portion is completed, construction is going to flip to the other side of Craighead. This portion will be usable. The other portion on the eastern or western side will be demoed, new storm line, new curb, and new asphalt surface. This is a look at the bridge. As you can see, the only remaining sidewalk portions that left to be constructed are on the edges of the bridge, and currently the aluminum handrail Bell is installing. All right, you can go ahead. Here's a look of the box culvert in the bottom right. That installation is complete. We're just waiting on the 18-inch to be tied in. On the left side of your screen in front of the Expo Center, that is the project's retaining wall number 1. Go ahead and pause it. This stretch in front of the Expo Center is Wedgwood Avenue. This has been widened from what was originally in place, so the retaining wall was incorporated in the design to retain the hill of the speedway. We had some difficulties with this, coordinating with an adjacent stormwater line, but it has been successfully constructed and is now 100% complete. All right, you can go ahead. All right, there's a good shot. Pause right there, please. As you can see, Wedgwood construction on this project goes from the bridge all the way to the intersection of Rains and Wedgwood up there at the top right of your screen. This area, the undercut is complete. Storm and sanitary lines are installed. We have electrical line installation underway, and after that will be curb and gutter and subgrade and asphalt binder upcoming this summer in June and July. On the left of your screen, this is Benton Avenue. You go ahead and pause it again. Everything's to grade on Benton. All utility lines on Benton Avenue all underground utility lines have been installed. All light pole bases have been poured. The white stripes are the curb and gutter. Most of the curb and gutter on Benton has been installed. And the second project retaining wall is right adjacent to the Speedway grandstands in the top left of your screen. That construction is underway. All right, you can go ahead. As we get closer to the stadium, you'll see more and more construction has been completed. We've tasked the team to shift their focus to this area to help accommodate May 1st game day. If you can pause right there, you can see concrete parking stalls, sidewalks, more curb and gutter on the left and right sides of your screen. The plan for most of the public access to the stadium on this side of the project, I believe the team anticipates 30% of the game's attendance to come from the northern side of the projects from these parking lots. So we're constructing a temporary crossing here at Rains Avenue through the very center of your screen to the, yes.
Just a quick question. Are these curb and gutter cutouts, is that intended to be street side parking on Benton?
Yes, okay. We're calling them parking stalls.
Got it.
And they're concrete with exposed aggregate for aesthetically pleasing parking stalls, we're calling them. But yes.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. So like Jim spoke of, we're working closely with the team for access across Benton Avenue, which is still an active construction site for the May 1st game. The plan is to have the majority of pedestrian traffic cross right here in the center of your screen with a temporary crossing, and ADA access is in the top right of your screen, close to Mortensen Messer's trailers. So a portion will branch off to the top right, but we expect the majority to go through the center here. So this is still an active construction site, so we're going to be encircling the majority of this project with fencing for public safety. There's lots of tripping hazards still present, so any unsafe areas will not be accessible to the public for the first game. You go ahead.
I have a question.
Yes.
On this video, where is WeGo public transportation access? Where's the closest, or generally?
Currently?
Or planned? We understand that there's a lot of moving parts and.
Planned on
yes.
Wedgwood Avenue down below.
Okay. Can you
Yeah, if you can rewind it, I can get you the exact location.
Just generally, just trying to understand. So off of Wedgwood and,
Off of Wedgwood, and I believe Benton too, right, Ron?
we go,
Nolensville Pike down by the Expo buildings.
and then you shuttle in?
You'll be able to walk.
And then there's stops on Wedgwood as well, I believe.
It's a smaller line, there's a stop near Wedgwood and Rains, Wedgwood and Bransford. But the larger one is off of Nolensville Pike down by the Expo buildings.
Just curious about folks that might have accessibility problems and being able to attend the game, so.
We're addressing that.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
All right, if you want to continue on. That's pretty much the highlights for the infrastructure project. As you can see, the farther west we go, the more completion on Benton Avenue. And right where the concrete stops is where the fairgrounds property line ends and this project terminates. But NDOT has completed paving this small stretch of Benton Avenue that feeds down to Bransford this week. Any other questions? Yes.
Anna, can you turn your mic
It
on?
was last Saturday.
Would you mind repeating the question?
My question was, when was the drone footage taken?
Saturday morning, last Saturday morning.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jim or Cole? If not, we thank you. I really appreciate the drone. Gave you some great insight and it helped us to really see how huge this infrastructure task has been. So
It's hard to see the whole thing without it. So.
Yeah, it's really awesome. Thank you very
All right,
much.
thank you.
Next, we'll have the Geodis Park Nashville SC report. At this time, Mary Carroll. I was going to say Ian, but it's going to be Mary.
I will start with a brief stadium update. We have some sponsorship signage updates as well as DBE. And then Ian Ayer, our Nashville SC CEO, will provide a club update. So I'll begin by sharing some photos of our key construction progress. Okay, next slide. And next one, please. So this is a shot of the team logo, which is installed in the northeast corner, kind of the stadium's front door. And then the next shot here are a couple pictures capturing the pitch installation, of which you guys can see the results out there, that it looks fantastic. And on the next slide here is an aerial view of the stadium. This is from the south lot looking toward downtown. And then the final aerial view is from the front of the stadium with our big plaza looking southward. I'm pleased to report that the stadium received its final use and occupancy permit at the end of March, which is a great accomplishment by many, many people. Our construction team is working hard, wrapping up kind of the final pieces. This includes the exterior banner installation that as you come into the stadium or leave today, you might be able to see some of that there. Our stadium sponsor signage and our punch list. And we're thrilled that that's now over 90% complete. So there's very few items that are left to kind of get wrapped up. Although we do not expect to have all the final cost information until later this summer, the stadium construction costs are trending slightly favorable to budget. And so later this summer, we'll be pleased to give everybody kind of a final report with all the numbers. And so from a stadium construction standpoint, everything's on track for our May 1st home opener. We do have 2 premium club naming rights that do require approval of the board. The first one relates to our prior meeting where we shared the stadium name Geodis Park. Well, in addition to that, the WeHo Club, where we're presently at, is also going to be named the Geodis WeHo Club. And so that part we just need to get straightened up. And then the next premium club is our Goalpost Club, which is, if you parked back here, 9A was the first club that you might have seen on the path. That's going to be named the Lo Ciento Goalpost Club. It's based on our sponsorship with Lo Ciento Tequila. Lo Ciento is a Los Angeles-based brand that was founded in 2021. And Nashville will be its first market outside of California. So I can pause here if you want to do your approval, and then I'll go on to the rest of my report.
Absolutely. We will consider approval of a resolution pertaining to a request pursuant to Section 9B of the lease agreement between the Sports Authority and Walsh Management LLC. The board understands that the team is required to get approval from this body. However, we cannot withhold approval unless the name is controversial or offensive in some way. So we'll entertain a motion to approve a resolution naming 2 premium club areas, the Geodis. Yes.
Forgive my ignorance. What does Lo Ciento mean?
I'm sorry, is my
Okay,
understanding?
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
And the resolution is behind tab 7.
Yes. All right, we'll entertain a motion to approve a resolution naming 2 premium club areas, the Geodis WeHo Club and the Lo Ciento Gold Post Club. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion or questions? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposers, nay. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm sure our club and our sponsorship team will appreciate that. If you go to the next slide. So Carol Greenlee is not here today. I'll cover briefly safety and DBE, but when we present all of our final numbers later this summer, Carol and her team will come and present the final recap and our highlights once we have everything. So if you go to the next slide, hitting on a couple highlights from a safety standpoint. As you know, it continues to be a very strong priority of ours. There are no injuries to report since our last meeting. And what's very remarkable to me is we almost have 900,000 project hours, and there was only one recordable injury, and it was like a broken finger, and the person came back to work later that day. And it's a tremendous accomplishment on behalf of our construction manager and others. So I think that's great news. And then on the next slide, here's a couple highlights kind of from our DBE standpoint. I'd like to point out that we're still tracking at about 36% of this applicable spend, which is in excess of our 30% contractual requirement. And then in addition to that, Mortensen Messer JV imposed kind of a self goal for women and minority labor hours. And their initial target was 22% of the hours. And they're currently tracking around 49%, which is tremendous, and we're very, very proud of all of this. I'll pause here to see if there's any stadium construction questions, and then if not, I'll turn it over to Ian.
One of the things you said was that you'll be presenting some of the numbers at some point in the future when they're all in.
Yes.
And you said they were tilting slightly toward budget. Could you tell me what that means?
So we don't have all the costs yet, and so I'm not comfortable saying, here's what that means. But right now, I'm confident that we will not exceed our budget. And as you may recall, that in this particular lease, the team was responsible for any cost overruns. And at this point, we're not expecting any cost overruns. But once we get all of our final costs in, work through everything, we'll be happy to share exactly what the specific numbers are. So
okay, thank you.
It's going to be good news. I just don't know what the number is.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have a question. I would like to revisit the We Go Stop on Nolensville Road. What's the distance from the stadium?
So in terms of exact distance, I don't know what the feet, what that part is. So there's actually 2 We Go stops. And there's other way, and Ian will cover that a little bit more. What I would tell you is WeGo has already set up their transit stops. Those work for various fairground events. And as we're working through people who buy tickets and want to come to the game from an ADA standpoint, we're trying to accommodate them with parking there. If people need to come through other methods, we'll have golf carts and other ways to help them get here and, working through all those logistics, but we'll be happy to get that specific information for you. And I'll turn it over to Ian.
Thank you.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Finally,
Good morning.
Geodis Park.
Yes.
I'm going to give a club update and a little bit about coming ahead of the start of the first game on May 1st. I thought so much has gone into this, and remembering I came here in 2018 and remembering how much this has changed, even this site, and we're here today. So we had our team put together a video just of the entire journey. I think anyone who supports any sports team knows that the home stadium of the team is its spiritual home.
I cannot wait for the new stadium. I can't wait to get in there and having a place that we can all call home.
Build that place to create memories for fans, and that just lifts the club even higher than we've been so far.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Geodis Park.
When you were a child, you were always dreaming about these things, and it's just a blessing. Nothing more grateful.
So, exciting stuff. Important when you build something this great to make sure that it's full on a very regular basis. I'm pleased to say that, this really shows all of these amazing premium spaces completely sold out. Even those at the bottom there, the corner kicks and studio terrace, now sold out. I asked our ticketing team just before I came over this morning. We're at 21,640 season tickets, which is incredible for a new team. Thank you. Some of the other things that we talked about along this journey were making this really something for everyone. That's represented in those ticket sales where we have everything from a $12 ticket for kids and families right through to some of the incredible premium prices and opportunities there that have been so popular. But this food story has been another key part of what we want to develop. Every food outlet that you will see on the concourse is either a Nashville or Tennessee brand, other than those that we run ourselves with Levy. So lots of great stories there. Chivanada there, a Colombian-inspired empanada business that started in a food truck in Nashville in an old school bus, and now going to be represented at the stadium. Hive premix cocktails, local, all of them local, and I think great for people to come and feel welcome and see those brands and taste that they know and love. We talked briefly there about parking. Of course, this is the third stadium I've been involved in being the CEO when we've launched, and it's always a challenge at the start, mostly because people have to find their way and their place. Of course, we said recently publicly we will control around about 5,000 spaces, depending on different days and different situations. About half of that has been sold on an annual basis to fans and season ticket holders. The other half hasn't been, simply because on certain days, whether it's other fairground events or whether it's weather related, some of the soccer pitches down on Craighead struggle in adverse weather. So we will sell them on a game-to-game basis. Those will go on sale for May 1st in the few days leading up to that. But controlling around about that many places, and of course that doesn't include for all of the other eventualities. So we talked about bus services, we have a rideshare facility, we'll have walking routes that we've communicated to people, and we'll allow scooters and bicycles, and we have places for people to park with that. I think anyone who's been to any major venue knows that over time you find your place beyond the team's parking. You find your way. I know we're working with Laz, our parking agent, and they're reaching out to many independent lots, and that will grow over time more and more, whether they want to work within our controlled system. And we know that for some of those people, they've reached out, want to do it themselves, and that's their right. But I think we will see, it will be challenging for everyone in the early days. We'll be doing a lot of communication in the next week or so, encouraging people to come early, encouraging people to plan their day, particularly for those early few games. We have a huge program, which we'll announce mostly on Monday for opening day. There will be stuff going on the event square 2-3 hours before the game. So encouraging people to come in early, to get used to that inflow. And then equally at the end of the game on May 1st, we actually have a concert in the venue at the end to slow down the egress at the end. The whole thing is sold out May 1st, and we only put May single game tickets on sale initially. This game sold out in 20 minutes, which is incredible. And we'll continue to see that grow across the other games on sale in May. So really what everybody wanted, you know, I remember speaking to John Ingram at the start of my journey here and say, why would you build 30,000 when most other teams build 20 something? And he said, well, I want to build it for where this team can go. And looks like we've kind of arrived already. So great things and great vision. If you're going to have a great stadium, you need to have a great team. So I'll just finish my part by saying that we really do have an incredible team here. We've had 2 seasons finishing in the conference semi-final of the playoffs in our first 2 years. And as you know, because of waiting for this stadium, we will play 8 road matches consecutively. In MLS, it's really difficult to take points on the road in MLS. But that 11 points out of 7 is really incredible, and the most road wins of any team in the entire conference. And if we win on Saturday, we'll probably break the all-time record for road games consecutively. So great team, doing great things, and now in a great stadium. I'm going to hand it, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them first, but yes, Kate.
Thank you. How is our goalie, Joe Willis, doing? I saw the game and he took that cleat to the face, and it was just tremendous, and it seemed to act like it was nothing. So certainly our guys are tough.
Goalkeepers are kind of a rare breed, I would say. You know, it's a very tough position because when you make mistakes, the whole world is on you. But Joe's a very special character. He shrugged it off. I was at the game, spoke to him in the locker room afterwards, and he was, it's all good. It's all good. We have some incredible players, and that group's been assembled intentionally to be tough, and we have a great coach who really brings the best in them. But thanks for asking.
I have just a couple of things about the stadium too. Is the stadium, when you're talking about concessions, will that be cashless?
It will. We will have the ability at the box office to trade cash for a preloaded card. So if you come and you don't have a card and you only have cash, you can make that exchange. But at the actual point of sale, it's cashless.
Is it also no bag policy?
Similar to other venues, so clear bag, certain sizes.
And then one last question about the operation of the stadium. We talked a lot about infrastructure and the facility itself, but what about technology? Can you just give us a couple of highlights on it? It seems like sporting events are so much about the experience of being on site and not the traditional. What type of wow features do we have here? How do we incorporate
so
that?
many of the stuff that you're seeing, I mean, in the new venue, it's so much easier to build this stuff from day one. The cashless experience and the ability to move very quickly through concessions is something in the terms of the point of sale we've installed. We've utilized, which I know, I don't know about Bridgestone, I know they have at the Titans, the Evolve technology, which is a mass throughput of security. So instead of having to take all of the things out of your pocket, you can just walk through, you can walk tens of people at a time through that. That's installed in most outlets except the supporters entrance, where we'd end up stopping everybody because they bring all those flags and drums and all that other good stuff. So we have traditional mag readers at the supporters entrance, but in the rest of the facility, mostly Evolve, which is great. And then fantastic sort of TV infrastructure system, which we'll really start play around with, and 3 huge video boards, as you've seen, 2 internal, 1 exterior. And I think one of the greatest things that was decided in the design phase was this fantastic event square outside, but we talked a lot, as I remember, about the ability for the big screen outside to be available for events outside, and also that the bathrooms reverse either way. So pre-game, when we have lots of people out on that event square, people can access the bathrooms without coming into the stadium. And that's also the case for independent events. And then when the gates open, we'll reverse that. So you can't access the bathroom unless you're inside.
Thank you.
Any more?
Any other questions?
Okay, I'm going to hand over to Brandon Hill, who's going to talk about some of our community activity, and he does an amazing job for us. So, Brandon.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'm Brandon Hill, and I'm the head of community engagement for the Nashville Soccer Club, and I wanted to end this on a high note with some feel-good report about our community engagement. First thing I'll say is that we're really proud about the inroads we've been able to make in the community in the short time that we've existed as a club. Especially given the fact that we've existed almost entirely under COVID-19 restrictions. It's very difficult to do authentic community engagement virtually, but despite that, we're really proud of some of the work that we've done thus far. So instead of just giving a report about the many programs and initiatives, well over 20 that we have, I'll just share a little bit about our approach. We're really intentional about trying to do three things. Number one, engage with the community. So we have a wonderful team, very diverse players. Our sport is so accessible, and so we feel it important to have as many meaningful relationships with community organizations, and we've engaged well over 60 different nonprofit organizations and groups here in multiple programs and community initiatives and opportunities to come to the match. Secondly, we want to try to leverage the resources of our club and our league to invest in these organizations, and so we've done a number of fundraisers and initiatives to be able to make contributions to the organizations. We have a very rich amount of nonprofit organizations here in Nashville, and we want to do our part to support those. And then last but not least, Nashville is a very collaborative city. We have so many organizations, and our community stakeholders will tell you one of the big challenges in a city like ours is to try to align all of these amazing organizations and resources together. So in terms of our work, we want to be a part of those collective impact efforts. And so to give you an example of that, instead of doing programs and initiatives in isolation, we try to rally behind the areas and the topics and the big priorities that our stakeholders in our community have identified. One of those things, just to give you an example, is early childhood literacy. A number of our stakeholders here in the city have talked about how that's a critical issue here in Nashville. Only about a third of our public school students are arriving at third grade at reading level. And so we've launched just one of the programs we can share, a Kickstart to Reading program, which focuses on third grade literacy. We have right now, just this semester, over 200 students engaged in that program, one of which is Fall Hamilton, which sits right on the corner here of our stadium. And we did a quick report last year. We're happy to share that we have over 200 readers in the program. And just this semester, they've contributed and logged over 600 hours of reading. We also have a number of literacy initiatives with United Way and a few other organizations. And so that just shows how we're trying to really align the resources of the club to be a part of the collective impact strategies that exist here in the city. Next slide. Just to share quickly the areas of focus. So we're really privileged to have an amazing community engagement platform with the league. Major League Soccer has a community engagement platform called MLS Works, and they have various focus issues, pillars and focus areas: youth enrichment, sustainability, diversity efforts, of course. And then we also have our impact efforts and impact areas for the club. So the big priority areas for us that we've identified with the help of our community partners that we focus a lot of attention on are youth engagement, diversity, equity, inclusion, and community health and well-being. So a lot of our programs are focused on those areas. And then we also have a number of programs that are focused on bringing community members to the games. And so our Section 615 program, we highlight a community organization and bring 30 to 40 individuals at every single match. We've had tons of different community organizations, youth, schools, to come to the game, and we always highlight those organizations and try to direct our fans to support. We also honor heroes at our matches, and that's another opportunity to shed light on the organizations that are supporting various communities. And then last but not least, I'll just share a few fun and exciting upcoming things that we have going on. On April 30th, one day before the opening match on May 1st, we're going to do a large tree planting with the Nashville Tree Foundation right here in Fair Park. Once again, this is an example of how we try to support important initiatives that the city has identified. This particular initiative is in support of Root Nashville, which is a local initiative that hopes to plant over 500,000 trees in Middle Tennessee by 2050. And so this is a project that supports that goal. We also have a number of community nights this season. Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month is in May, and we're going to support that with a special focus night. We also have a Pride Night that we do in sponsorship with the LGBT Chamber of Commerce. We have a Juneteenth celebration and a Hispanic Heritage Night. Those are just a few to name. We do lots of different, celebratory initiatives to highlight and raise awareness about communities in our match. And then last but not least, I'll share, just a few weeks ago, we're really excited to announce the Nashville SC Community Fund, which is a fund that we've set up to be able to provide grants to local organizations. And we have the first grant application coming up in May 31st, and we're hoping to award our first grant later on this year. So just excited to leverage all the amazing things from Major League Soccer in our club to try to make a difference, and we're excited about leaning into our community efforts moving forward. Any questions?
So Brandon, I have a question.
Yes.
The 615 initiative, how does an organization go about getting involved in that?
So if you go to our website at the Section 615 page, there's actually a form that you can fill out to recommend groups. And then we also work with a number of organizations aligned with our focus areas. And so I don't have an exact number, but we've had well over 20 different organizations and groups to take part in that. And on our first match, I believe Big Brothers Big Sisters is the group that we're working with at our first match on May 1.
Awesome. Any other questions, comments?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
So thank you, Ian, Mary, Brandon, great report. Excitement's in the air. We can't wait. We're looking forward. Nashville SC, thanks. So this concludes our agenda. I'd like to thank the members of the board, the Sports Authority staff, Metro Finance, Metro Legal, and our facility team representatives for being here. We thank you, Nashville SC, for hosting us today. And staff will communicate the date of the special call meeting as soon as it's confirmed. The regularly scheduled May meeting will be held on the 19th at First Horizon Park. The board is going to meet briefly as soon as this meeting concludes for a photo. And so if there's no other business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.